You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Being outside is good for us. It's that simple. And trails make it easy for us to walk, bike, and be active outside in our own backyards. On the trail, we see people moving, connecting with their communities, making the places where they live great. For 40 years, Rails to Trails Conservancy has led the way, creating trails across the country, making it safer and easier for everyone to get outside. They want you to get involved. Find your trail and start your journey today at railstotrails.org/iHeart and follow at Rails to Trails on social.
Your wedding day is supposed to be one of the happiest days of your life, the beginning of an exciting new chapter with the person you love. And the honeymoon is supposed to be an extension of that happiness, a chance to escape from everyday life and enjoy those first few days together as newlyweds. But for Christina Kettlewell, that new chapter lasted only 8 days. And when it ended, Christina was dead, her honeymoon cottage was burning, and the two men who had been with her were left trying to explain what happened. The problem was, their explanation didn't seem to line up with the forensic evidence. Christina was a 22-year-old bank teller from Toronto, Canada. She had been raised in a devout Catholic household and was described as someone who almost always had a smile on her face. Several years earlier, Christina had started dating a man named John Kettlewell, who went by Jack. But shortly after their relationship began, Jack enlisted in the military and was sent overseas during World War II. Eventually, the two lost touch, and Christina moved on. But when Jack returned from the war in 1946, he re-entered Christina's life, and so did his closest friend, Ronald Berry. Soon, Christina, Jack, and Ronald were spending nearly all their time together. To Christina's family, the relationship between the three of them seemed strange. At first, they wondered if Ronald was secretly in love with Christina, but eventually they began to suspect that Ronald's interest might not have been in Christina at all. Maybe he was actually in love with his best friend, Jack. Then on April 29th, 1947, Christina failed to show up for work at the bank. Less than 24 hours later, her parents received a telegram signed Chris. The message simply said, "Jack and I were married. See you when we get back." But Christina and Jack weren't married, not yet. Then on May 12th, Christina announced that she and Jack planned to marry that very night. Her sisters practically begged her not to go through with it. The argument became so heated that Ronald eventually called the police. But Christina was an adult, and the officers couldn't stop her from marrying Jack if that was what she wanted. So later that evening, Christina and Jack were married in a ceremony witnessed and largely paid for by Ronald. Instead of taking a traditional honeymoon alone, the newlyweds brought Ronald with them to his remote cottage in Severn Falls, Ontario. The cottage was only accessible by boat, and the three reportedly brought enough clothing and supplies to remain there for most of the summer. But almost immediately, Christina's behavior changed. She began crying uncontrollably and sometimes appeared to be in a daze. At one point, she reportedly told Ronald that she didn't believe Jack truly loved her. Then just 3 days after arriving at the cottage, and only 8 days after her wedding, Christina was dead. On May 20th, 1947, Ronald's cottage caught fire. Ronald claimed that when he returned that evening, he found the building in flames and Jack unconscious inside with an injury to his head. He said Jack appeared to have been drugged, but Ronald managed to pull him outside just before the cottage burned to the ground. Christina, however, was nowhere to be found. Ronald's closest neighbor saw the smoke and traveled to the cottage. When he arrived, he found Jack unconscious on the ground and Ronald saying he couldn't find Christina. The neighbor helped take both men back to Severn Falls Landing, where Ronald's car was parked. Ronald then drove Jack to the hospital. At around 9 o'clock that night, he finally called the police. Sometime later, Christina's body was discovered approximately 150 feet from the burned cottage. She was still wearing her floral print pajamas and was lying face down, partially submerged in just 9 inches of water. Her expensive wedding ring was missing. But as strange as that scene already was, the condition of Christina's body raised even more questions. She had no burns and no significant injuries that could explain her death. There was water in her lungs, leading the coroner to determine that she had drowned. But how did a healthy 22-year-old woman drown in only 9 inches of water? The coroner also believed Christina had been submerged for quite some time, possibly since before the cottage began burning. If that assessment was correct, Ronald's account of returning to the burning cottage and not knowing what had happened to Christina became much harder to explain. Then toxicology testing found traces of codeine in her stomach. Jack claimed he couldn't remember anything after approximately 11 o'clock that morning. He said he had suddenly become extremely sick before losing consciousness and believed someone had drugged him. But while police questioned him, Jack revealed something else investigators probably weren't expecting. He admitted that he and Ronald had been involved in a romantic relationship. So investigators were no longer looking only at the mysterious drowning of a newlywed woman. They were looking at her husband's alleged lover, a missing wedding ring, multiple insurance policies, traces of codeine, and a cottage that had burned to the ground. And somehow, the story only became more complicated from there. Investigators would eventually uncover allegations involving blackmail, thousands of dollars in missing cash, forged bank records, and letters that appeared to describe an earlier murder-suicide attempt. The complete story of the mysterious death of Christina Kettlewell, better known as the 8-Day Bride, is available now as July's Patreon bonus episode. To hear the full episode, including the bizarre financial allegations, the alleged suicide notes, the evidence revealed during the inquest, and the 3 leading theories about Christina's death, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/forensictales or by using the link in the show notes. And as always, thank you so much for supporting Forensic Tales.
Being outside is good for us. It's that simple. And trails make it easy for us to walk, bike, and be active outside in our own backyards. On the trail, we see people moving, connecting with their communities, making the places where they live great. For 40 years, Rails to Trails Conservancy has led the way, creating trails across the country, making it safer and easier for everyone to get outside. They want you to get involved. Find your trail and start your journey today at railstotrails.org/iHeart and follow at Rails to Trails on social.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.